Yeah, I usually work in series, so I will create a body of work that can fill a room. Can I kind of look at it as what would this look like if I had an exhibition? So I might prepare 10, 20 pieces along a theme, and I do that periodically. But of course, then there are the times that you're just creating work that you're experimenting with. I mean, here's the piece I'm working on now is one of those. It is highly textured, and it's kind of a collage. And I used an old shirt that I had, and the idea being that I saw a documentary pointing out just how much pollution, how much in our landfills are actually created by clothing. Used clothes, discarded clothing. And I thought, wow, that is tremendous because that's something I can use in my art. And so I'm exploring this idea. So whether this turns into a series or not, I'm not sure yet. But likely it will. I have to fall in love with the idea first. So this is very, very experimental. I like the idea of using recycled materials. I know that's not new. A lot of people do that. It's new to me. I haven't done that before. So I'm going to be working some with paper mache, painting, collage work, maybe even some sculptural elements out of wood and metal and things, found objects as well, because I find all of that fascinating. To create some sort of collection there, some sort of statement that this is just one part of. I am experimenting with just things that are being kind of tossed around here. And I do have in this particular piece some flowers and a little butterfly. I'm not sure where it's going to go. The reason I point this out is I was recently talking to a friend who said that certain elements that he looks for in my paintings, and he finds them positive and happy, which I had never really considered before. And the reason I find that so funny is that I'm always looking for ways to find representation in galleries and get the word out about my art. And so I write to different galleries, and I wrote to a gallery in Latvia. And just because I don't show in Latvia, wouldn't it be nice if I could show my work there? And I got a long response back, and usually don't get any response from gallery owners. They're far too busy. But this fellow did write me back a long, like a page text. And in it, he said that he didn't like my work. He didn't say it wasn't right for him. He said he didn't like it. And he said that it was far too decorative, which I never know how to respond to that. Compared to what? Too decorative for whom? But he did say that, and he said that there wasn't enough pain in my work. And that really what he hoped would happen in my life is that I would experience a great deal of pain, because only then would my artwork survive or get better. And that struck me on two levels. First of all, what a completely typical and predictable East European response. I'm sorry, there's not enough pain. There should be more pain. I found that strikingly funny. And the second part is that, all our emotions come through in the work. If you're doing this honestly, your emotions are involved, and they come through in the art you produce, whether you like it or not. And to somehow suggest that pain and suffering and angst and disappointment and fear are more valuable, more authentic feelings than joy and happiness and contentment and peace. Why is the negative considered to be more artistic than the positive? So I reject that, though I do truly appreciate the fact that he took time to write and give me that advice. I do agree with him that whatever I'm feeling should be coming through the canvas. Whether that's decorative, I don't know how to answer. I mean, I'm not producing things to be decorative. I am not creating work to match a couch or to sell in a department store as a decorative item. But if he finds my work not to his liking, that's certainly his prerogative. But I found it really, really funny that an East European would say, you got to have a little more pain in your life. That seems to track somehow. I came to art rather late in life. That's not quite fair. I was very interested in art when I was young. Art ceased to be taught after, fourth grade. I think it was only as an elective. And so I went into music. I was in band, and I was in music for junior high and high school, so I didn't opt into art, but I always loved art. Art became particularly abstract art. It became a part of my life when I was growing up. I was attending Catholic church, and we were building a new parish, and we had the gym in the school completed so that we could run the school. And the gym was actually the church and would be turned back into a gym when we had enough money to build the church. So it was a several-year process before we could afford to build a brand new bespoke parish, sanctuary church. And so we were working out of the gym. And in order to spruce the gym up, we wanted to make it look like a church. There was an abstract artist, a very popular artist here in Houston, famous, Bob Fowler. He did a lot of sculpture, but he also was a painter. And he was contracted to do the artwork for this new gymnasium. And he created this 1960s. He created this amazing artwork that went from the ceiling down the wall. It had constituent parts, and it was very, very abstract. There was like this giant hand of God reaching down through the clouds, and on the finger was the crucifix. So God was like giving his son to the world, and that world was a tumultuous place. So all around the base there were magazine and newspaper articles about crisis and famine and war and prostitution and drugs and all these things that God inserted Jesus into. And on the altar, there were 4 panels, abstract portraits of who Jesus was in our day and age. And so there was a picture of a Middle Eastern man that was very kind of ominous looking. There was a picture of a Jesus freak, somebody who was a Protestant who was, if you lived in the 60s, you knew what Jesus freaks were. And a very kind of loving, commune-driven, charismatic, spirit-filled person who was not what the Catholic Church generally was. And then you had a portrait of a very poor black man who was very, very emaciated. And the 4th one, I've forgotten. It was a prisoner of war, or kind of looked like from the Vietnam War. So it looked like a Vietnamese man who was behind barbed wire. And these were the faces of Jesus. And under the picture of the black man was the N-word in a sentence. This poor N-word is dying in Sunnyside, I think it said. And the fact that there was the N-word on the altar of this church, I mean, this piece of work was scandalous and incredibly powerful. And what it did for me as a kid growing up was I saw the division it caused. I saw the raucous kind of, you either loved it or you hated it, and more people hated it than loved it. And I thought, this art stuff is really powerful. That's why I find it hilarious that the man considers that I'm doing decorative art. I'm looking to create that. I'm looking to create something that is going to impact the way people live their lives and get a guttural kind of response from people. That's what I look for when I create art. I don't always achieve it, but I'm looking for art that changes you. When I was in high school, they opened a high school for the performing and visual arts, HSPVA, here in Houston. And it opened while I was in high school. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I want to go. And they were like, no, it's downtown. We don't, back then getting downtown was a little sketchy. And no, just get through high school. Can we just keep on with what we're doing? And I agreed. I said, okay. So I got to college and I wanted to study art in college. And Mom and Dad said, absolutely not. We're not paying for that. You can study art on your own. You can do whatever you like, but I'm not going to pay for you to get a degree in art. So I didn't. I continued to do art on my own, just as something that I enjoyed and loved. Never really showed it to anybody because I didn't have the credentials that I needed. And so that passed me by for, 30 years. I went and became a librarian. I did art as I could, as I had time and inclination, but never really embraced it. In 2015, we realized that Mom and Dad were going to need some help. They were in their 80s at that point, and kind of finished up a contract in Russia. And I said, okay, I'm going to move home and we're going to take care of Mom and Dad. And that precluded me from really getting a legitimate job, because how do you take Mom and Dad to the doctor, be responsive if they need things, grocery store, whatever else happens. And obviously as they decline, that need for care was going to go up. So I said, I've always wanted to do this. We've got some money saved. Let's do the art thing. And so in 2015, we gave up the day jobs, and I have never been happier in my life. It took a lot. And it was funny that Mom and Dad got to live long enough to see me go back to art, the thing they told me I couldn't do. So there was that kind of full circle. Yeah, never been happier. Yeah, my hope for the future is that I will continue. I mean, the way the market has been of late for artists, it's been difficult. So as far as I can afford to do this, I will continue to do this. I want to diversify into getting gallery support. So if I could get my work into some museums, that would be great. Articles written. I don't need it. I often wonder, it's particularly at my age, am I doing this because I'm afraid of death? Am I trying to live forever? Am I trying to create some sort of memory of me because I don't have kids? So what will happen when I die? And I guess that's there, but I don't think that is significant to my art. I really feel that the reason I do art is self-expression. It's my cry in the desert, right? That I need to be able to get this stuff out, and I can do that by writing and poetry, and I've done that and continue to. But it's not the same as art. I try and explore the relationship between the spoken language and the visual language with this kind of artistic visual vocabulary that speaks in a different way, but kind of fulfills the same needs. So there is a personal, I'm doing it for me, mostly for me. Now, I would like to be able to live off of it so that I can continue to do this. So yeah, would I love to be famous? Yeah, that would be great. Do I need to be famous? Absolutely not. I want to be famous enough that I can live off my art. That's all.